16th of January, Rabbi Furst, Pierke Avos.
I was muted when I said good morning to you, Eliezer. Sorry.
No, I heard you. I heard you.
Oh, well, I got muted again. I don't know how I got muted.
Oh, good
Shalom
morning.
Aleichem, Rabbi Amori.
Good morning, Lou. Good morning, Elias. Good morning, Roy. Okay, what I hope is staying warm and dry. It's wonderful winter after the morning in Yerushalayim. Okay, and I think, did you get the most recent document that was sent out last night?
I got it and I sent it. Did you guys get it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, we're moving on. I'm going to put it on the screen as well. Good morning, Barry. How are you today? Okay. Right, good morning, Rabbi Shlomo Furst here, Yeshiva Samanavshi here in Yerushalayim Kiruv Zoom. We are learning in first year Pierke Avos, the third pair of Avos, the 13 the mimer of Kiva. Putting on the screen shortly, and here it goes.
Is this the new sheet?
Okay, that. Okay. Yes, this is the new sheet. Okay. So yeah, who would like to begin to read? We'll reread the mimer of Rabbi Akiva, and we'll continue on with the next statement that he makes. Yeah, anyone would like to begin can start.
I would like to. Rabbi Akiva Omer Schoch V'Kolos Rosh Margilin Le'erva.
That's Adam Le'erva, right? That's Adam. Again, Le'erva, right? Go ahead.
Mesoras Siag B'Torah Ma'asaros Siag La'asos Nidarim.
Osher.
Yeah, Ma'ashros Pasayag La'osher, right?
Nidarim Sayag the Farishos,
The Precious.
Sayig the Chachama Shtika. Okay, so what it says that levity and lightheadedness accustom to sexuality. Mesoris is the tradition.
Yeah, that's right. Correct.
What's siag?
Sai is a fence. Is a fence for the Torah.
It's a fence. The Torah for the Torah. Masaros is a deeds are a fence.
Maestros meaning maestros meaning tight, taking the tithes.
Oh, tithes. Tithes are a fence. The Osher, the Narim is a fence. Let's see, Osher is wealth.
Yes, so maestros tithes are a fence for wealth.
Oh, if it's a fence for wealth, and Nidarim, oaths are a fence, the issues for separation.
Yeah, that's right. Or abstinence or self-control. Maybe self-control. Self-control, I prefer of all of them.
Self-control. Uh, 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 for wisdom and silence, for a wise silence.
Yes, silence is a side. This saig lechachma, the fence for chachma is shtiga. And if you notice, the format was changed in this last statement, right? Usually the thing came first, and then what then the description of what's protecting for. Here, the protection came first, and then what you're protecting, and then what it was. So you just have to realize that the format was changed. The format was changed in the first statement to the last statement, right? You see that?
Yeah, I got confused about that. So it says that the tradition is a fence for the Torah,
Right.
and the tithes are a fence for wealth, and oaths are a fence for self-control, and a fence for wisdom is silence.
Right. And
Is that right?
and defense for chachma is silence, right? For wisdom. Right.
Okay, so there's I guess I'll put a semicolon after pre-shoes.
Correct. That's good.
Okay,
Okay.
so he started out saying Rabbi Akiva said that levity and lightheadedness accustom one to sexuality. And then he went into all these fences.
Right.
What does it seems like a non sequitur.
No, he's giving he's giving you advice on good practices. Just general advice in various areas.
But why does he switch from a format where he says this leads to this to a format of offense?
Right. So that we discussed a little bit because it would be insufficient to mention that see, because here the first thing that Rabbi Akiva is teaching us is the seriousness of what Skoik and Kalas Rosh will do to a person. He's not talking about offense at this point. He's telling you the seriousness of Skoik and Kalas Rosh. That the consequence, he's telling you the consequence of Skoik and Kalas Rosh that will bring a person to lewdness, right? So that it wouldn't be enough to say that to avoid lewdness, you should do this and this. That wasn't the emphasis. The emphasis was to try and tell you the seriousness of Skoku Kalas Rosh.
Right.
That if you know the seriousness of those things, then you should on your own know to stay away from them. When it came to things which were less, right, less serious, meaning you're not dealing with it. The rest of the series of things which are listed here by Rabbi Akiva are not involving averis, not involving sin, right? So just simply to protect or to protect your wealth, to protect your abstinence, and to protect your wisdom. These things are important to protect them. Take time to explain about the seriousness of avoiding the sin of erva. So then he told you the causative factors that will lead a person to erva. Okay.
Okay, so we're back to erva being a negative thing.
That's right. Sure.
Because we had discussed the other day that it was a neutral thing.
Well, it all depends. Even in the even if a man's own wife, if she's a nida, it's your usab is skok v'kalashos with your own wife, because you're gonna get yourself in trouble.
Right. But the other side of the coin is that we read that quote from the Torah that Yitzchak was schok with his wife,
That's right.
and we said that was not necessarily anything bad. That he was
That's right.
doing the proper thing. He was creating the proper mood for relations.
Right. That's the you should know they asked the question, why don't you make a bracha, right? After Tashmish, right? Why shouldn't a person make a bracha asher yatzar, right? A person after he uses the facilities, right? And he makes a bracha asher yatzar. So the question is asked, why similarly after a person has been having relations, right? Why should he make a bracha asher yatzar also? That's also a function of function of the body which was functioning properly, right? So they asked the question, why not make a bracha asher yatzar? So he said, because the majority of times when a person's involved with this mice of tashmis, the Yetzer Hara is in control. The majority of times. So it's not proper to make a bracha on something that the Yetzer Hara is having a fair part of the behavior which is taking place. So even at best, it's a as we said, the Shekhinah is removed from a person at the time of Tashmish, even in the highest madrig, because it's it's an act which is somewhat non-human. It's not a human act. It's a physical beastly act, and so therefore we, of course, if we try our best and we try and infuse to that actual physical animalistic act, if we infuse it with as much spiritual kedusha and tahara, purity and perfection to it, so we can elevate it. But in general, it's an act which is not always elevated. It's not always an act which is on an elevated level that you can make a bracha she'artz on it.
But you can say the same thing about going to the restroom.
Yeah, well,
That's the most selfish thing that you can do.
Yeah, but the HR is not involved with that. You can't say the HR is involved with it. No one has the HR to go to the bathroom.
Well, you have a Yetzer Hara to be selfish.
No, I mean you're just taking care of what you have an urge, and you have an urge and you want to get rid of the urge. Right? You just want to, have your body get back to being comfortable again.
Isn't healthy to hang on.
No. The Shrine actually speak about this. The Shrine speak about that. And when a person has an urge, he should really take care of the urge at the first opportunity. It's not healthy to, as you said, to hang on there. So yeah, let's move on to the next. Masoras are Sayyid the Torah. So the tradition, right? The tradition is a fence for the Torah. What's that supposed to mean?
Masoris shemasru lanu chachamim bechasoros v'yisros shebetorah. Okay, so the tradition that was handed down to us,
Right, correct.
In wisdom.
Well,
by
the sages.
By the sages. What's bechesros?
That's bechesaros v'yeseros b'shabbat Torah, meaning there are many words. There are many words in the Torah that are either have extra letters or lacking letters, right? So
right?
the Masorah, the Kabbalah, what it means, right, has been passed down to us from one generation to the next by the sages of each generation.
Okay. I'm not following though how the end of the sentence is worded.
The tradition which has been handed down to us by the sages in those things that are lacking, meaning those words have letters lacking, or have extra words that are in the word that are found in the Torah. That's the tradition about what they mean. What are you supposed to know? What are you supposed to do, right? When one of the words is clearly missing a letter in its spelling, right? The word's been spelled certain ways up till now, and now you encounter the same word when it's lacking or it has a extra letter in it, right? So what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to know from that? What is that supposed to teach you? And also, which ones are supposed to be chaser and which ones are supposed to be mole, right? All those things have been transferred from one generation to the next by the chachamim of each generation.
But there's much more than that that's part of the Masorah.
Yeah, but this is the most basic part. This is the most basic part. You're right, but this is the most basic part.
Okay. Haim Geder the Chizok the Torah. They are a fence and a strengthening of the Torah.
Right. Correct.
Shibikasav,
The Torah should be
Shibikasav, the
Shibikasav.
written Torah.
Right.
That's interesting because what they're saying is that the oral Torah, they are the oral Torah,
Right.
right? So the oral Torah is a fence and a strengthening of the written Torah. Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Sha'al,
That's the whole point. Exactly. You're right. Correct. That the Torah itself, without the oral Torah, the Torah's B'Ksav is very much lacking in what we really need to know. And the
right.
Torah Shabbat Peh comes to add that totality to the Torah Shabbat, which is lacking otherwise.
Sha'al Yedehem Anu Mivinim Kama Mitzvos Eich Ya'asu Osam. That by them or through them, we understand many commandments, how to do them.
Right. We mean in the very basic Kabbalah, which we have, right? The Torah Shabbat Peh, we know about many mitzvahs, how they're supposed to be done. And it's all given to us through the Masorah from one generation to the next through Torah Shabbat Peh.
Kama beseches. Sechos?
Kamo, like this is an example. Kamo,
Like, okay.
Basukos.
right? It's a Gemara. It's a Gemara. The Gemara, when the Torah mentions the word sukkah, right? It says sukkahs with samech chaf sof and samech chaf sof, and then it spells one other time samech chaf vav sof, and that's a very, and because of these limunim, we learn out from one of the things we learn out that it has to have at least 3 walls. We learn out things which are very crucial to the fulfillment of the mitzvah.
Okay. So this is Kamo. This is an example.
Right, Kamo, like as. So for example,
I wanted to ask, is it fair to say that since the Yidden learned for 40 years in Midbar, the oral Torah, that the written Torah was really like short notes, so to speak, reminders that the oral Torah expands on.
to some extent, yeah, to some extent. I mean, you need both. Both are crucial.
Of course, you need both. Of course, we need both because the written Torah is our reference,
Right.
you know, and then we fall back on the oral Torah that you know the rabbis tell us what it means.
Yeah, I mean, when we received the Torah, and when Moshe Rabbeinu taught the Torah to Kal Yisrael, he taught it to us in its entirety. There were no doubts about what the Torah was obligating us in, right? And
Right.
and the Torah B'Ksav, what we have in the written Torah, that's the Torah which Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to be in a finite, clear, irrefutable form. And the Torah Sheba'al Peh, right? So that's supposed to be in a way that has to be given over from Rebbe to Talmud from each generation. That it was something which is not something which is open to clear, open public knowledge, so to speak. It's something only for those who were initiated and are properly prepared to be part of the Masorah.
But then how do we explain that you can see very big differences in opinion of what the Masorah is? You have very great rabbis, and you can and often we hear opposites. One says this and the other says, no, it's this way. And both of them have proof. Both of them have very valid opinions.
So a lot of what you encounter in the Gemara is the drush. Let me put it this way: the drushes of Chazal, in the Sefer Minchas at Torah Mincha, there's a Talmud of the Rashba. He explains that the drushes of Chazal are basically disputes as to what the Torah contains as in terms of where we're supposed to remember the halacha. I mean, many times the halacha, right, is not under dispute, right? The drushes that you have Chazal are basically where and how is best to remember what the halacha is supposed to be. That everything, in fact, was clear, right? And in order to remember things, at the time of the Gemara, there were disputes as to what was the proper way to remember the particular halacha that they were discussing.
But to say that it's clear is, I mean, even Moshe Rabbeinu had to ask questions. The daughters of Slachad, he had to ask. With the man who gathered the sticks, he had to ask. So the Torah was not 100% clear, and nowadays, you know, there's definitely much room for discussion and debate. It would seem to me that we would say the opposite. We would say only when you combine the Torah Shebiksav with the Torah Sheba'al Peh do you get to a state where it's clear. And even then, we have tekus in the Gemara, so even then it's not 100% clear.
The basic Taryag mitzvahs, the 616 mitzvahs, 613 mitzvahs of the Torah, there's no dispute about that. There are certain things, certain times when you have the new cases that come in that weren't discussed. Therefore, you have to You have to deal with a certain case in its context, in terms of does it apply? What is the halacha? But that's simply a application of the Torah, which is known to the new situations that come up. The case of the Benos Slavka, their case didn't come up. That wasn't something which was discussed. The case of the Malak Eitzim, that's the case that didn't come up. We knew Moshe Rabbeinu knew he was Mechalel Shabbos, right? And the question was, what was his death sentence supposed to be? The Benos Slavka. We knew that there was supposed to be a Yerusha, but whether women were supposed to be included in that Yerusha was not delineated. So,
But that's halacha.
yeah, but that was a halacha that wasn't given over, that the Moshe Rabbeinu had to ask. Many of the halachas are not given over. There's rules to paskin to decide questions that come up as situations develop, which are not delineated.
We have the case on Pesach, where when we eat the maror, we have in mind that the bracha goes on. I'm sorry, when we eat the karpus, we have in mind that the bracha goes on the maror.
Right.
That's because there's a machlokus about the halacha of whether the bracha before saying motzi carries over. So in order to satisfy both opinions, we have this procedure that we eat less than the kazayas, and we have an intention.
Right, because
That's because we don't know exactly what the halacha is, no?
Because that's a question in many of the things which you see and encounter in halacha and also in the Gemara are dealing with dinim d'Rabbanan, the things that the Rabbanan had instituted. And the question is, when they instituted things, how did they institute them? And eating the carpets is something which is midrabanan, right? When it comes to Korban Pesach, it's very easy, right? You have a Korban Pesach, you have matzah and more, and that's it, finished, no questions. Now you want to develop another mitzvah midrabanan of eating the carpets, and the question would be, are you supposed to have in mind the Brei Priyadama, when you eat the carpets at the beginning of the Seder, that's supposed to cover the Mora or not? So that's something which is transposed on the basic mitzvah d'oraisa. And so those that you can have disputes about that. Many times you have disputes about the Rabbanans.
So you're saying every d'oraisa halacha is known and there's no machlokas about it?
In general, the basic 613 mitzvahs, there's no basic machlokas about those things. Those things are clearly delineated. Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, for example, this case here, sukkah, right? So you have these 3 words, sukkah. So the question is, there's no question about sitting in a sukkah and when you have to sit in a sukkah. The question is, are the walls of a sukkah? What is the minimal requirement of walls for a sukkah? So that's a question which is relevant to the fulfillment of a mitzvah d'oraisa, right? And therefore, there are ways to learn it out. When you ask that question, there are ways that the Torah helps you understand the answer to that question that you have.
Right. I don't understand.
Right. But so a lot of what you see, a lot of the questions that are coming up, and a lot of the tekus that are coming up in the Gemara, and a lot of the maklokas in the Gemara have to do with dinim d'Rabbanan, right? Which are things which are either fences around the Torah, or there are embellishments of what the Torah requires. So in those things you can have disagreements about that, whether or not you should institute this decree or not institute this decree. We have by Megillah, right? Esther wanted, she said, to this Yanshi Knesset Gedolah, she said, "Suddenly the door." She asked that the Megillah be included in Tanakh, right? They weren't, and they weren't about to add another book to Tanakh, but finally they decided that they were going to add the Megillah to Tanakh. But they had to bring a lot of good reasons why.
But Rebbe, there's another area related to that, and that is that as an example, everybody agrees that a woman who's married to a man has to be divorced from that man before she can marry another man.
Right.
Everybody agrees with that. Nobody would disagree with that. She
Right.
can't marry another man. She has to have a get. She has to have, okay. So, I mean, I personally experienced in Philadelphia a situation where there was a woman who had a difficult situation, and one Rav paskined that she was in fact divorced. You know, it was a complicated situation. So the question was, did she have a get? Is she married to this man or not? And
Right.
one person said, yes, you're divorced and you can marry another man. And there were Rebbeim who disagreed with that.
Right.
So, and there was a huge machlokes, Nebuch, you know, I mean, it was terrible for the community. But the point was that the Rebbeim who could paskin had different opinions.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So you know, it's not always that everybody is unanimous on a situation. They may be unanimous on that a married woman can't marry another man, but they can argue about, is she married to the first man?
Yeah, very good. A very good example. Yeah. Fine.
So it's a very difficult situation.
Right. True enough. Very good. Okay. Fine. It's the point is understood well. Okay, so far.
Yeah,
Okay. Right. So yeah. So go. Come on. So yeah. So again, come on, sukkah. So you, for example, like sukkah.
okay. Shnaim chasirim ve'echad male. Two are lacking and one is full.
Right. I mean, two of the words lack the vav, and one is full. I mean, it has the vav.
Shemi menu. Somebody's making a bunch of noise. I don't know who it is. I think it might be you, Eliezer. Do you have children in your?
Yeah, it's okay.
Are you babysitting, Eliezer?
Okay. She mimenu anu lomdim leha kashir socha b'shalosh dipinos.
The funnels.
Defanos. What's defanos?
Walls.
Walls?
Well, that's right.
Walls. Okay, so that shemimenu is from us.
From these drushes, the fact that the sukkah says twice chaser and once malay, 3 times it says sukkah, and once it's malay and twice it's chaser.
From this we learn that a kosher sukkah has 3 walls.
Right. So again, everyone is in agreement that you need to sit in a sukkah. The only question is, what's the minimal amount of walls you need to be considered to be in a sukkah? So that we learn out from here that it needs to be 3.
Vikagon Moadei Hashem Asher Tikru Osam. And for example, the festivals of Hashem that he calls them
Right, correct.
She Nichtav Chaser B'Shalosha Mikomos. That it is written lacking in 3 places. Lilamed, to teach, atem afilu shogagim, that they are, it's even if it is unintentional, osam afilu mizedim, even if it's intentional, asam afilu mutaim. What's mutaim?
Even if you're mistaken, if I'm not mistaken, muatim, I think muatim. I have to see the drush. I'm not familiar with this drush, so I'll try and look it up.
Okay, so we don't know what this is about.
It's another example where we learn out something, a halacha, based on the chasur or mole of the psukim.
Right. We learn something about even if it's intentional or it's not intentional or it's a mistake. Okay. Masoras Siag Latorah. Okay, so same subject. The tradition is a fence for the Torah. Masoras Elu Malay V'chaser V'ha Ta'amim She Masru Chachamei L'Talmidehem. So these traditions, full and lacking, and the reasons for the tradition of the sages of the Talmud, Behem Siag, and they are a fence, the Torah, for the Torah. What does that mean?
Sayag the Torah should be ksav, right?
Big up, right?
Right, so this Masoros, this Torah Shabbat Peh, which it was been given from the sages to their Talmidim, they are a fence for the Torah to be ksav.
Ah, okay. L'Talmidehem. Okay, so they're students,
Right,
not the Gemara, students.
correct.
Okay, Shalo Timtza Hasfirim
Right. Hasforim.
Hasfarim Chalokim Ki im b'mekomos mutim
Muatim.
muatim. What's muatim?
Few.
Few. Okay, so that we do not find books. Viewpoints.
No, well, lo timsa hasvoim chulokim. You don't see that the svarim. This could be a reference to the Gemara. This could be a reference to the Gemara. You don't find in the Gemara differences ki'im b'mokas moatim, except in a few places. Meaning the minority of cases are cases of dispute.
We only find a few machloches in the Gemara.
Right.
Wow, that's interesting. I would have said the opposite. I would have said it's chock full. Okay, Masha Ain Kane. That tells you how much I know. Masha Ain Kane, Besifrei HaTalmud, Ki Bekama Mekomos. Okay, so Masha Ain Kane is nevertheless, or even though?
In contrast, Mashenkin, in contrast.
In contrast, with the Gemara.
So here it's talking about the Gemara. Yeah, so very good. So actually you have to. I made a mistake. It's note Tim when it's said in the first line there of the first part of the second line. Note Tim said hasvarim chulakim. That's I think he's talking about the svarim of Tanakh, right? You don't find in the svarim of Tanakh.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense. Okay. In contrast, the Svarim of the Talmud, there is many machlokos. Hagrasios. Hagirsos in the texts.
Right.
Hatichalafos. Gam bechol yom v'yom. What is tilafos?
Hagirsos hamachlifos. Hagirsos hamachlifos, meaning there are different texts, different editions. Let's put it that way. Maybe like different editions.
Okay, so with different texts, also in each and every day.
No. So it says here, gam bekol yom v'yom. Put a comment before the word gam.
Before the word gam, okay. All right, but what gam b'chol yom v'yom, does that mean also each and every day?
It says, yeah, well, we have to continue the sentence. Gam b'kol yom v'yom.
Hasavaros mi tachdishos.
Miskadshos.
Miskadshos. What's that?
Also, each and every day, Svaros miskadshos. The opinions will miskadshos will become new. Will become each and every day. The Svaros are or maybe you could say revised, right? Each and every day, as far as the opinions become revised.
Umehem kosavin hagirsa al pi da'asam. And from them are written texts according to the opinion.
According to the opinion, right?
Unasna rishus lisavalo. and they give permission. What's l'savalo?
The Savam and Rishus L'Savlo, meaning it's given Rishus to accept this.
Ki sefer shalom ein be'eretz asher lo yichatu v'tolin hataos al hasefer below ad da'asam. Ki, because sefer, is that the beginning, the opinion?
Well, Ki Sefer Shalom, meaning a full, meaning a perfect Sefer Ein Ba'aretz. Meaning it's not a perfect Sefer Ba'aretz.
What's sefer mean in this context?
Sefer would mean something which is like one of the commentaries, I think. We're talking about commentaries here.
Okay, so a perfect commentary does not exist in the world that that does not does not have a sin. Yichatu.
No, that's not the Asher Lo Yechatu. That will not have an error, not have an error.
That will not have an error. V'tolin hataos, and the errors are dependent.
Well, they're attributed to. The
errors are attributed to the
Sefer. They attribute the error to the Sefer and not to their understanding.
they're attributed to the sefer, meaning the book.
Right.
So they're saying that there doesn't exist a perfect book in this world that doesn't have any errors. And the errors are attributed to the book, not to the understanding.
Right.
I'm completely lost.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have to go.
Oh,
We're
late.
gonna have to explain this tomorrow. We're late now, so we're gonna have to explain this more tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Because it's not gonna be a one easy explanation. So we're
This
gonna
is
go
very
into this
hard.
again tomorrow. Yeah.
The
Very
break
good.
time?
We'll go over this tomorrow, Mitzvah Shem.
Amen.
Okay, we'll take a little break now and we'll come back and Mitzvah Shem start up with, we're in the middle of the Tshuva from Rav Moshe, if you have, remember that document we're working through now.
Okay, so this is Reb
that's
Moshe here. I thought this was Rabbi Akiva.
That should be the document you have for the next, excuse me?
That's the other document.
And thank you, Rabbi
That's-
Furst.
That's
We'll
right.
see you.
Okay, Roy, have a good
See you.
day. Hope to see you tomorrow.
See you,
Okay.
Roy. Have a good day.
See you later. Take a little break.